Morning, whoever's there online. So if you can take out the Hebrew one that has questions and answers and the summary, I want to go over briefly what we did yesterday. It's on page 52. So this is the summary of this chapter. We now have two interpretations. The words "Anonos of Malk," I choose the king. One is I choose the king, not the light of Gan Eden and Spheres, very high, lofty level. The other one is I choose the king, and the lowest of levels, not the stars and the constellations. And the Rebbe says that these two interpretations are at two ends of the spectrum, but they're both connected. How? Page 53. Because the lower level mistake, choosing the stars and constellations, evolves from the higher level mistake, choosing the light of Gan Eden over Hashem himself. How does this work? One who chooses the light of Gan Eden over the essence of Hashem, he does so because this way his identity is preserved. Because one connects to the essence of Hashem, one loses their identity completely. This evolves into a bigger mistake to choose Klipa over Kedusha in order to have greater benefits, although one loses their connection to the emes. And this evolves into a bigger mistake to give substance to the stars and the constellations themselves. Because once you give substance to anything outside of Hashem's essence, even to the light of spheres, after much ishtalshlus, which means after this little mistake evolves, and becomes broader and becomes more pronounced, eventually you can end up giving substance to the stars and the constellations, which is true avodah zarah. So the main thing is, it's about recognizing and choosing the ikar over the tafel, recognizing what's primary and what's secondary, and to choose what's primary over that which is secondary. Okay, I think we can do one more ois, which is Yud, and then we'll do a general review. There's some charts here in the back, which is helpful. I didn't go over with you in class, but let's first do ois Yud. Okay, so the Hebrew English, ois Yud is on page page 253. This is a deeper explanation, can be added to clarify the connection between the two things. I would choose the king. This is called the love of Mili B'Shamayim, that he wants Ein Sof over all the pleasures of Hashem's light that manifest in all the spiritual worlds. How's that connected to avodah zarah? which means if a person chooses that choice of choosing the light of Hashem over the essence of Hashem, after becoming much more pronounced, it eventually could become someone who chooses Avodah Zarah. By the way, it doesn't mean Chas v'sholom that this person can end up doing that. It means the fact that there exists such a weakness on a higher level that can lead to this weakness on the lowest of levels. There's a story which is a little bit similar to this. The Rebbe himself told the story that there was once a Jew, I'm not sure how the Rebbe said what he was called, but let's assume his name was Yossel. They called him Yossel the Klotz. Why the Klotz? What's Klotz? Klotz in Yiddish means a block of wood. He learned Torah 18 hours a day. And he sat and he learned 18 hours a day like this on a block of wood. After a number of years, the wood got so rubbed out that it became like a seeding place as a result of all his learning. So he was known as the great Yossel who learns nonstop 18 hours a day. When he was getting older, someone said to him, you've been learning 18 hours a day for years and years and years. It's time to relax a little bit. And if you learn 16 hours a day, what's going to happen? So he said, Chas v'sholom, I don't want it. Because of me, some other Jew is going to convert to Christianity. And he looks at him, what are you talking about? I'm saying to you that instead of learning 18 hours a day, you learn 16 hours a day. So he said, let me explain you something. If I'm the one in town that learns 18 hours a day, and I start learning 16 hours a day, then those people in town who used to learn 16 hours a day, they say, oh, if he went down, then I can also go down. Instead of 16 hours a day, I'll learn 10 hours a day. And what's going to happen to those people who always learn 10 hours a day? They're going to say, oh, if they can go down, I can learn 5 hours a day. And what's going to happen to those who used to learn only 5 hours a day? Oh, if they went down, I can learn 1 hour a day. And what's going to happen to those that learn 1 hour a day? They're going to say, if these people lower their standards, then if I learn 1 hour a week, that's also going to be fine. And what's going to happen to those people that used to learn only 1 hour a week? They're going to say, it's not so important to learn 1 hour a week. As long as you go to shul every day, that's good enough. And what's going to happen to those people that didn't learn, they only went to shul every day? They're going to say, well, if they lowered their standards, then I don't have to go every day. I can go on Shabbos and Yom Tov. What about those who only went Shabbos and Yom Tov? They're going to say it's good enough to go Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. That's fine. What about those that only went on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? They're going to say going on Yom Kippur only once a year is good enough. What about that all they did was just go once a day in the whole year on Yom Kippur to shul? What are they going to say? They're going to say, who needs to be Jewish altogether? I can go ahead and, God forbid, convert. So he says, if I start learning 16 hours a day instead of 18 hours a day, who knows how it's going to affect the person at the end of the line? It's a little bit hard to understand what this means, but I'll tell you what it means. It means that when people live in a certain community, there's certain standards. When the standards are lower, it affects everybody. I think of a really perfect example, which is a true story. I have a friend that he works in construction, and he has people working for him. These people are not the smartest people. They're not the most upper class people. Their main quality is hands and feet. They have muscles and they can schlep heavy things, but other than that, their life is not necessarily at a very high level. One day, one of the workers having a conversation with him, he says, Rabbi, I want you to know that I'm a good man. I never killed anybody, and I was never in jail. Now, try to imagine, we're here in Machon Yadus, we're having our graduation. I'm introducing one of the students, and I say, here's one of our students, and I want to tell you, she never killed anybody. She was never in jail. Would you be proud of herself, or this would be like an insult? How does this a person is proud that he never killed anybody and they're never in jail? How do you explain it? What's going on in his head? So the answer is he lives in a neighborhood where other people do kill and other people are in jail. So it's an accomplishment that I don't kill and I don't go to jail. If he would live in a place, in an environment where this one is a doctor and this one's a lawyer and this one's an accountant and this one is a teacher, this one's a professor in college, and this one has this degree, and this one has that degree, it wouldn't even dawn on him to say that he's proud that he didn't kill anybody. To be proud, he'd have to show more achievements, more accomplishments. So basically what it means, when you look around you, there's certain standards. If the standards in my environment is that there are people that do such things, then not to do it is already something special. I mean, it's an accomplishment. But if people around me are learning 18 hours a day, I don't feel accomplished by just learning 1 hour a day. So basically it said, if on the highest level there's a sort of a descent, then eventually this could affect others that on the lowest descent. So in a sense, it doesn't mean that this person has it just means that if there's such a mistake that you can choose the light over the essence, what could evolve from it somewhere else, that somebody can choose the stars and the constellations over Hashem. Is this understood? Yeah? Okay. But now that I was going to explain a little bit deeper, why is it that the nations of the world choose the other ministers, and we say that we choose only the essence of Hashem? And how the two things are connected. So the Hegdim, that's first preface, the fundamental mistake that led to worshiping stars and constellations. Those people who worshipped Avodah Zarah in the beginning, they knew that Hashem is in charge. But what happened was, they take something which is an intermediary, something which is just a means to an end, and that becomes by them the end in itself. For example, they are worshiping the stars and the constellations. The stars and the constellations, they're only an intermediary. Through them, Hashem does things in the world, like the axe in the hand of the chopper. So those people that are that they worship them, they're looking at something which is really only a tool, it's an intermediary, and they look at it and attribute to it important as if they are what's important. They're an important thing. This is really something which could affect everything in life, to always recognize what's primary, what's secondary. There's a story told, it's a mashal for similar things, but it's the same idea that a person who was a poor man was traveling, and he heard that the wealthy man in town invites everybody to his house for a meal, at night for supper. He's a very big Baal Tzedakah, so he was very happy to go there. Goes to the house, and there are 20 other people sitting by the table, and he has a bell in front of him, and he rings the bell, and maids come and servants come, they bring fish, and they bring other things to start off the meal. About a half an hour later, he brings another bell. Again, maids come and servants come. They bring the main course, chicken and side dishes and all the delicious foods. He's enjoying every minute of it. And then an hour later, they rings the bell again, and they bring the dessert, maids and servants. He was so generous that at the end, and on the table, there's forks and spoons of gold and silver. At the end, he says to all the people sitting there, I give you permission to take one thing from this room, whatever you want. So this one chose a golden spoon. This one chose a golden fork. Guess what he chose? He was the smartest person in the room. He chose the bell. He took the bell. He comes home to his wife. He says, "You don't know what I have here today. Invite everybody from town into our house." She said, "What? What are we going to do? There's going to be a party like you can't imagine." "What are you talking about? We don't have any food in the house." You're not going to believe what you're going to see. Just wait. Okay. And of course, she invites all the people, sits by the table, big smile on his face, takes the bell and rings the bell. Nothing's happening. Rings the bell, nothing's happening. Rings the bell and nothing's happening. Why? Because the bell is not doing anything. The bell is just a means to an end, to call the maids, to call the servants. And here's a person, because he's not smart, he gives importance to the tuffle rather than to the ikar. So that's a lot of things in life are like that we forget what's the main thing, what's the purpose, and what's the tuffle, what's the ikar. So first of all, they make the mistake by thinking that the stars and the constellations, Hashem created like a bell. It's through them it gives Hashpah, but not the ikar. And they attribute ikar to these things, so they worship them. The second thing is, hey, what do we get? What do they get from the klippas? They get gashmis. They get food and clothing and power and abundance of gashmis. Page 254. Shashpah, gashmis. That's also only a means to an end. Hashem didn't create us to eat spaghetti and meatballs. That's not the purpose of creation. He didn't create us so we can have a nice, beautiful suit to wear and we can have a nice job. He created us for a ruchnistic purpose. In order to accomplish that ruchnistic purpose, he wants human beings, so we need to eat and sleep and take care of ourselves and have a home and have food and have clothing. So all the Gashmis is only a means to an end that's there to enhance our ability to serve Hashem properly. And these people, even the Kechavim Mazolos, those who worship the stars and the constellations, and they do it because they want all the abundance of Hashpah Gashmis. That means they're making the Gashmis Ikar. They're making the Gashmis, instead of looking at the Gashmis as a means to an end, they look at the Gashmis as an end in itself. This is the primary thing. That's why they want to get the sustenance from Klippa. So they should have more Gashmis. But by having more Gashmis from Klippa, you're getting further from Hashem. So they're forgetting that Klippa is only an intermediary, not Klippa, that the Gashmis is only an intermediary. That's not the main thing. But by them, this became the main thing, and they forgot what it's all about. So therefore, they'll give up the main thing to get the tuffle, to get the secondary. You know, to take certain medicines, you have to take it in a capsule. Inside the capsule is powder. That's the medicine. So whatever somebody would say, I don't like the powder. The capsule, oh, that tastes good. The plastic, I like it. It goes down smooth. Take the capsule, open it up, pour out all the powder, and take the capsule. Same thing. I'm giving the importance to that which is secondary, and I'm losing that which is primary, the ikar. So when we talk about a capsule and a medicine, everyone knows that this is foolish, but happens all the time in life. You know, this is one of the big things that Rebbe talks about shidduchim. I'm sure it comes up in the classes, that when a person goes out on a date and is looking for a shidduch, the Rebbe is begging, don't put your head into tuffle, into the secondary things, focus on the primary things. The Rebbe even refers to some things as tuffle the tuffle. It's secondary or secondary. This is not what's important in life. And focus on what's important in life, and then you'll see that your choices will be very different. Okay, so how does this connect to what we're talking about? When we talk about the essence of Hashem and all the light of Hashem in all the worlds, it's the same thing. Hagiluyim, which means all the worlds, the spiritual worlds, where Hashem's light shines and manifests and is revealed, and this brilliant depth in all this light. Tachlis uloy be'ematzim. That's the purpose, is not that Hashem wanted this. It's much higher than our world, but that's not what Hashem intended. Hashem intended this Gashmistic world. So, what was Hashem's goal when He created the world? This physical world. So, why did He create the spiritual world? Because being that Hashem is infinite, He has to contract like tzimtzum for His light. So He created Atzilus, and then Bria, and then Yitzira, and then Asiya. That means all the worlds, and all the spirituals, and all the light, and all the Giluyim, in the language of Chassidus, is all a means to an end in order to create this Gashmistic world. And this Gashmistic world, that's where the essence of Hashem is invested. The Ruchnistic worlds were only a means to an end to this Gashmistic world. Therefore, page 255, if a person chooses the light of Hashem in the spiritual worlds, and he chooses that instead of having the essence of Hashem in the Gashmistic world, that means he's making that which is secondary primary, and that which is primary is becoming secondary. So Efshalias, from this, it leaves room that there's a possibility for a bigger mistake to evolve, that you give preference to the stars and the constellations over the Ikka, which is Hashem. So this is really extremely revolutionary when you think of it, because we're always thinking about the spiritual worlds, how they're higher than our world, and you can't compare it to our world, and how 1 minute in this world is nothing compared to those worlds, the pleasure, the light, the understanding of Hashem. We can't even begin to compare, and we're always talking about how what we have is nothing. On the other hand, when you talk about Hashem Himself and His purpose of creation, is the other way around. The ultimate purpose of creation is this Gashmistic world, and the Ruchnistic worlds are only a means to an end that Hashem wanted to create, the Gashmistic world. I don't remember if it came up in this class, but there's a line that we say Friday night in the Chadoidi. Soif machshava, no. Soif ma'asa b'machshava tchila. Did we ever talk about that in this class? Anyone remember? Does it sound familiar? Soif ma'asa b'machshava tchila. What does it mean? We say it every Friday night. It means what's at the end in action is the first in thought. It means very simple. When a person is involved in something that has many details, and you want to know what's the most important, you look at the end. I'll give a simple example. You build a building. The first thing that happens is a hole in the ground. They make a hole in the ground. They take out all the sand, and then they put down a foundation in the ground. Then they start building a metal frame on top of the foundation. And then they're building bricks. And then they're doing windows. And then they're doing walls inside. And then they do the roof. And then they do the plumbing. And then they do the electricity. And then they do all this detail, that detail, and eventually the building is finished. And now people could move in there and live there. Or if it's an office building, now people can move in their business in this building. Which part of all these things that I mentioned is the purpose of the whole building? Is it the roof? Is it the windows? Is it the foundation? Is it the walls? Or is it the finished product, a house that people could live in? So when the people sat down with a plan to make the building, what was the first thing that came to their mind? Let's make a window? Let's make a wall? Let's make a hole in the ground? No, the first thing that came to their mind is, let's have a house, a building where many people could live. Let's have a building where many offices can be there. In order to accomplish this, they have to sit down. How do we finance it? Where do we get money from? Where can we get a loan? Where do we get a contractor? So their spending could be weeks, months, and years until they do it. But guess what? What happens at the end, that's what got them started in the beginning. And that's with everything like that. When something comes to the end, you know that was the initial purpose why the whole thing was done. So if Hashem would have created Atzilus and Bria and Yitzira and stopped there, we would know, oh, Yitzira, that was the purpose of creation. If you would create Atzilus and Bria and stop there, oh, Bria is a servant creation. Being that Hashem created Atzilus and Bria and Yitzira and then Asiya and this Gashmistic world, so we know this is the purpose why everything is here. So all the worlds are here to enable us to have a Gashmistic world, not the other way around. And therefore, we should be ready to give up the Giluyim for the essence. We have to walk away from this mimer, besides everything else, with an amazing appreciation of doing a physical act of a mitzvah even one time. And to realize that this is the purpose. We don't understand. So what Hashem created the world, so I can wash my hands 3 times here and 3 times here, and eat a piece of bread and make a bracha? The answer is yes. Why is that? Why? You can't understand Hashem, but that is the purpose. Putting on tefillin, putting up a mezuzah, eating matzah, lulav and esrog, these physical acts, that all the spiritual worlds and all the angels and all the commotion and the storms that are going on and all these levels, it's all about enabling us to sit here in a class in the physical world and learn Torah and to do a mitzvah b'gashmis. So now the Rebbe is going to say, if this is the issue, whether you recognize what's primary and what's secondary, what's the goal and what's the sort of, what's there as a means to an end, it'll give us a deeper understanding why the Eden don't make the mistake and the nations in the world do make the mistake. There are those that worship the sun, and those that worship the moon, which are the ministers. The source of all other nations in the world is from the external desire of Hashem. That's the will of Hashem, that he wants something, but as a means to an end. When you're involved in that external desire, you don't feel that it's external and it's a means to an end. It feels as if, oh, this is the end in itself. This is the purpose. Page 257. And that's why what evolves from this is when the nations, they themselves are created in a way as a means to an end. Of course, the nations of the world have a purpose. Their purpose is to do the Shev Mitzvah B'nai Noach. But remember, we said many times that when we say there's an internal desire and external desire, there are deeper and deeper and deeper levels. But we gave the example. I'll go over it again. If a person's working a hard, difficult job, schlepping heavy stones, and you say, do you want the job? He says, yes, I don't want to lose the job. This is what's my sustenance. I feed my family with this job. But then you ask him, would you mind if you would get all the money paid for it without working the hard work? He said, sure, I wouldn't mind. Pay me money, and I won't have to do the hard work. Which means he doesn't want the hard work because he enjoys the hard work. It's a means to an end. He wants the money. And the desire to do this job is only chitzoni is haratzon. It's an external desire. Right? What about the money? So we said again, does a person want money for money? No, he wants the money so he can have a comfortable, happy life. So the desire for money is chitzonius haratzon. And the desire to have a happy life for himself and his family is pnimis haratzon. And why does he want to have a happy life for himself and his family? The answer is because that makes me feel good. So feeling good is the pnimis haratzon, and having a happy life and having money to be comfortable is the external desire. When you talk to a yid who learns Torah mitzvah, he says, the reason why I want to have all these things so I could serve Hashem properly. So that's the pnimis haratzon. And then you ask him, why do you want to serve Hashem properly? And he says, because I'm going to get a lot of reward. Oh, so the real ratzon is to get reward. Oh, and then you come, no, it's deeper than that. I'm doing it because that's the emes, and that's what Hashem wants. And I want to do what Hashem wants. That's the ultimate ratzon. So in every situation, when we say external desire, internal, it's not just black and white. There could be many levels, layers of depth of this I want for that, and that I want for this, and this I want for that. And ultimately to recognize this is the ultimate purpose. So Hashem created a world. In the world, he created the sun and the moon and the constellations. He created nature. He created trees. He created animals. He created people. And everything in the world is created for a purpose. The ultimate purpose is that Yidden should do Torah mitzvahs in this physical world. In order for that to be possible, Hashem created everything else in the world, Daimon, Tzameach, Chai, and Medaber, and also the nations of the world. Even the 7 mitzvahs is there that ultimately, through the 7 mitzvahs, that enables us to do what we have to do with the 613 mitzvahs. So therefore, it means that they come from a place which is Chitzonis HaRatzon of Hashem, and that's why they look at things that are secondary, and it appears to them that this is primary. You didn't come from Hashem's internal desire, which is the primary. So therefore, they have that spiritual ability to look past the things that look like on the outside and to recognize what is the ultimate goal and the purpose and the essence of what's really important and what's secondary on the highest levels. But Shirish Yisrael, the root and the source of Yisrael, is mipnimi saratzon, from the inner dimension. Shemitzat pnimi saratzon ein nesiris makom leize inyan achar. In the inner direction of Hashem, there's no room for avodah zarah, no room for anything negative, only for what the ultimate purpose is, Torah mitzvahs, Yidden doing Torah mitzvahs in this world. And therefore, Yidden have the recognition that the stars and the constellations are only intermediaries, like an axe in the hand of the chopper. In other words, basically, because our source comes from a place which is the inner desire of Hashem, I can recognize in this world what's the inner desire, what's the ultimate purpose, and what is secondary. Because it could be very confusing. It could definitely be very confusing. And that leads to making the decision, I know Mosad Malka, and I'm not going to choose anything else but the essence of Hashem, because that's really what the ultimate goal is, to recognize what is the purpose in everything in life. And the truth is, like I said, if you think of it, almost everything in life is related to this point. Whether you're working at a job, whether you're involved in a relationship, whether you're educating children, whether you're doing a project, building an organization, you're running a hospital, you're running a business. It's very important to stay focused and know what is the ikar and what is the tafel. And very often, one of the reasons why things fail, because we end up giving so much attention to the tafel and we forget about the ikar. I think last week I told you should come back with some examples. I forgot all about it. No one came back with examples. But think of an example right now of something in life that the reason why people make the mistake is they attribute importance to the tafel, to the secondary, rather than to the ikar. Let's take, for example, if a person is building a school and you have a lot of money, what should you do with the money? In some places, they spend all the money on the physical beauty of the building, the walls and the ceilings, and there should be paintings, and spend who knows how much money. When it comes to paying the teachers, doing things that are enhance the education of the children, they're not so much into that. But the beauty of the building, building another building and a bigger building, a more beautiful building, that's something which you can actually see with your eyes. And very often there are places that they put more emphasis on that than anything else. Someone is in charge of a hospital, pay a lot of money to make a beautiful building and beautiful desks and the state-of-the-art equipment, state-of-the-art computers. There's not enough money to get enough doctors or to get all the equipment you need for the patients, but there is money to beautify the building. Very often, this is what happens. Or let's say in a family, a person has money to make beautiful home, buy beautiful furniture, and then for things that are really important for the education of the children, for the happiness of the family, there isn't any money. So you're taking something which is also important, but it's tuffle, it's secondary, and you're investing more into that than you're investing into the ikar. The wisdom is, the chokhmah is to know what is primary and what is secondary. In every situation, we have to recognize what is primary and what is secondary. So I guess the Rebbe is showing us that this mistake, primary, secondary, can go from the top, from one end of the spectrum, all the way to the lowest end of the spectrum, that in each situation, you can recognize what's what, and to make the right choice, to recognize what's the ikar and what's the tafel. And that'll lead a person in the right direction. I mean, it's a joke, but the joke shows the idea that somebody saw a friend running, going very fast. Says, where are you going? So he said, I'm going to visit this Yankel who's sick. I'm running because someone told me that he's feeling better. I want to get there like before he recovers, because I want to visit him when he's sick. In other words, it's almost like he's saying, I wish he'll be sick for one more day so I can run and visit him. They do the mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim. But you're forgetting that the main thing is that he should be well, not that you should have a mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim. They tell a story that there was somebody that very wealthy person, and the poor, it's a horrible story, but it's a mashal for the same idea. A poor person came to his house, and of course he's so stingy, he didn't want to really give him proper food. He took some old fish, and he gave it to him. And really, it was food poisoning. The fish was bad, and he had to be rushed to the hospital. And he was in terrible pain, suffering, and he went to the hospital to visit him. Unfortunately, he died. He went to the funeral. And the lady said, you see what happened? I did 3 mitzvahs. One mitzvah was Achnosas Orchim. I fed a guest. Then had a mitzvah of Bikkur Cholim. Then had a mitzvah of escorting somebody who's dead in his funeral. 3 mitzvahs. The inyan is not that you have mitzvahs. The inyan is that the other person. I mean, it's, of course, in this case, everyone sees the foolishness, but very often we end up focusing on the opposite of what it's supposed to be all about, and we give attention to the secondary. Okay, believe that tomorrow we're going to do like more of a general review. I don't think we can go into the next one. Maybe I'll go over in some brief way. Okay, now we have to do it. I just challenge you. Okay. Yeah. Okay.